Welcome to the Boxing Life podcast. Andy, how's it going, mate?
It's going really good, mate, and it's good to hear a British accent over here, I tell you.
Kev, you good, mate?
Great, man. Again, in my front yard, so I'm happy to be here. Excited to talk to Andy a little bit.
Just to set the scene, we're on Santa Monica Bluffs in between hundreds of palm trees, the sun's shining. We can hear the sea in the background. It's lovely. If you want to watch this on YouTube, you can go to Box and Burn YouTube page and watch it on there. Andy, first question I like to ask all the guests that come on the show. If someone doesn't know you and they ask you what you do for a living, what would your answer be?
I help people, mate. That's plain and simple. I help people perform at the highest level, get out their own way, and really become world class, man.
Yeah, and how do you do that?
I work with people's minds. I'm a mindset and peak performance expert for 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs, but I've also worked with everyone you can imagine, man. Everyone you can imagine.
Right, so you're helping someone with the mind. Let's break that down. I want to break it right down.
Sure.
How can you help me with my mind, or anyone with their mind? How can you help them? Obviously, it depends on the different type of person, right?
It depends on what they want. That's where we got to start, right? It simply depends on what they want. When the point is, when you start to understand about the brain, and this is everything, right? It's about science. I work with NLP, neuroscience, and some other things. But when you start to understand these neural nets, this brain is it works just like a muscle, man. Just like a muscle on the outside. There's no difference. So when you start to understand that, we have to train it or retrain it. You know, putting it simple. So if you start to understand that, then we have to look at what you are playing right now in your head. So what images, what feelings, what thoughts, what's going on? What's stopping you getting that performance? Or what do you want more of?
Right. So do you work much with people in the fitness industry?
Mate, I've worked with a lot of pro fighters, world champion athletes, jiu-jitsu guys, everyone you can imagine.
The businessmen, because I know you do work with entrepreneurs, so any fitness entrepreneurs?
Fitness entrepreneurs, we just spoke about our buddy Chad George.
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Chad is world champion Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy, wicked MMA fighter. And there's a lot of people like that I've worked with who are transitioning from sports actually into making an income for themselves,
right?
You know, and that's a huge transition.
Yeah, that's a huge transition, and it's hard, especially for top-level pro athletes or pro fighters, to go from doing that to earning a good living. I mean, that's why, like what we talked about Brendan Schaub before, UFC fighter, he did great with it, and then I've done all right, you know, with Box and Burn.
You're doing good, mate. That's a cool gym.
Yeah,
I love it.
And then so it's a hard thing. So do you work with fighters who's, let's say, they've retired from fighting and they've got the down in the dumps like I was at one time, to bring them back out and
absolutely, because the thing is about that, when someone goes low, it means that besides the muscle that's playing or the thoughts or feelings that are playing in the head, it's also changing their brain chemicals.
Right.
You know, so if you're down after doing something, it means you're like serotonin, which is your happy chemical, that's really low. So it means your focus is probably beating yourself up. You're probably lost. You've lost your identity. You've probably lost your income stream, and then you don't know where to turn. So it's cool to work with entrepreneurs or athletes who would want to become entrepreneurs, because then we find what their purpose is. We find out what they really want to do. We just find out what really excites them again, you know?
Do you use the angle, especially with former professional athletes or former competitors in business, of how do you translate those qualities of competing at a high level into how to run a business and be competitive and be successful? Is that an angle that you use?
That's an awesome question, man. Yeah. And it's definitely the right angle. Because the cool thing is, once you've performed at one thing at a world-class level, guess what your nervous system knows how to do? It knows how to perform at a world-class level, right? So it knows the discipline, it knows the drive, it knows the beliefs. And so what people do, if you've been a pro athlete at any level, or even an amateur athlete at a high level, then that's why, as long as you understand where you're going and we can fine-tune you and help you, it just transforms, it just changes from being an athlete straight into business. And that's why all these athletes, if you get it right, are just blowing business up.
Right.
It's the work ethic.
Why are they getting it wrong? Because there must be 99% of athletes they get it wrong, and they don't know what to do, and they end up working on a building site or working in a call center.
It's first of all, you've got to get rid of that identity of being an athlete, right?
Yeah.
Because you know that's the same with everything. It's like a fighter. I'm a fighter. You know, they're always a fighter, but You look at a samurai warrior. A samurai warrior was a fighter, but he was also a poet. He was also all of these other things, right? He was the calligraphy, all of these other things. So you're not just a fighter or you're not just an athlete, right? You're also an amazing human being who potentially can do anything. If you've performed, God, you can smash it with business.
Sure.
So what sort of training do you actually do with guys like that? How do you train them up?
Well, again, you and me will sit down with them, and I would really start to look at what's causing them that pain right now. Because those things, it's like what we call, if you understand this as a neural net in this mind, and it's a muscle, then often once that person's come away from the sport, then that muscle still keeps getting thicker and thicker and bigger, and that obsessive nature, instead of it being directed towards what they wanted, it starts to go the opposite way. But it's still the obsessive nature. That's what got them to the result. But getting them a new result, first of all, we've got to stop that direction of where they're thinking. Right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Am I
that
ranting?
makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. No, I can relate to it. You know?
Right.
So, talking about you're helping 7 to 8 figure entrepreneurs, that's $1 million to 20 million, right?
Well,
I think of the figures, right?
Yeah,
That's what it is,
yeah.
right?
It's exactly. It's eight figures is 10 million plus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what sort of stuff and what sort of businesses? Is it businesses you're working with, or like the individual?
Well, I work with the. This is the thing. I don't work in corporate.
Right.
I don't do that. No, I don't think I'd work very well in there. I work with entrepreneurs because they're all driven, but they're just all trying to do their own individual journey, not be anyone else's. They're always unique people, and that's what I love, right? And that's what I love.
What do you find typically is the biggest problem for people at that level? Then they want to go further. They want to progress.
Yeah. Well, what happens is we get like a boundary or a box around what's possible.
Mm-hmm.
What happens then is Einstein said it best. We get boxed in by the boundary conditions of our thinking. You know, we get stuck. What happens is then that becomes a thick muscle, and we keep bouncing around inside this little box, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is we have to start designing or building what's on the outside of this, so that boundary expands. Does that make sense? So then we can retrain that bigger muscle. So for somebody in business, they're probably doing awesome, right? So let's say they're doing awesome. Yeah. But then what? There's levels. It could be affecting their health for sure, but it's probably affecting their whole family. They're probably so obsessed with work that they can't switch off, which then affects the stress. It affects their immune system. It affects the chemicals in their brain. It affects everything. And so there's no point in driving towards something if you're sabotaging and smashing everything around you. You know.
Sure.
So when you train them with that, what sort of exercises do you give them to train the brain?
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting thing because we'll give something that's simple, right? It's routines. How habits are formed is by small steps. When we can create small steps towards something, our brain and our nervous system starts to get used to it, and it starts to integrate with it. So that's the first thing we have to look at.
Small steps is in like morning routines or what?
Morning routines is a step, right? But even let's before the morning routine, you wake up. You have no idea what you've been dreaming about.
Right.
If you wake up, I don't know about you, but sometimes I wake up with anxiety, right? Stress, freaking out about the day.
Disturbing dreams sometimes. It's a terrible way to start the day.
It is, man. But then what? Right? So first of all, what we got to teach people is how to do something I call a pattern interrupt. Interrupt that pattern. So interrupt those connections. Interrupt that movie that's playing in the head, right? So we can do that a few different ways. A nice simple way for people to do it is by understanding that as a human, we are question answering machines. Like, Tony, there's not a question I can't ask you that you're not going to try and answer.
Yeah.
For example, man, what are you going to have for dinner in 2 weeks on a Thursday?
Right. Yeah.
You're like, I don't fucking know. But your brain tries to answer it, right? Well, you can use this with performance. So by asking certain questions in a certain tonality, a certain way, then you can start to interrupt these patterns. So a nice simple thing, because I'm ranting on, is what thought or what feeling's happening right now, right? Even by asking what thought or what feeling in the morning, it starts to detach you from it instead of being in it and freaking out. It starts to give you that third-party perspective so you can start to, okay, that's what's running, okay? That's the pattern that's playing. We can change it now.
So ask yourself them questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then that'll get you out of that mindset. And
well, think about this when you were competing and fighting, man. It's like you were stepping into that ring. Those words that you were saying to yourself as you were stepping in.
yeah, why the fuck am I doing this?
Yeah, right.
Idiot.
But we have routines before you step in the ring. You have routines that get you in that right mindset.
Right,
so that's that morning routine.
And what that's called is anchoring.
Right.
What anchoring means, it's like we could take you back to, I don't know, a smell or a taste, or take you right back to like when you were partying as a kid, or take you back to grandma's cooking, or
nostalgia.
Right. But that's an anchor. And the thing is, we have negative and positive anchoring or triggers all around us. So me going back to Liverpool, right? That used to be a real negative anchor because it'd take me right back to my childhood, take me back to all those memories, and I'd feel like I was like 18 years old again.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
We've all got that experience, right?
Right.
So I have a question. I want to take it back a minute. You mentioned we get stuck in this box and we need to expand on these things outside of the box. But I feel like there's got to be a step in between there, and how do we open that box? Because you can build outside, but how do you open and let those things in?
Yeah.
Do you know, does that make sense?
No, absolutely makes sense.
Right.
Well, the thing is, let me explain this. We have a conscious and we have an unconscious mind.
Right.
The conscious mind is the bit of the mind that you and me are speaking in right now, but we have our unconscious mind. And my definition behind it is like the software that plays in the background of your head. That's like the software that plays in the background of a computer. The hell does that mean? It means it runs automatically. It gets outdated, and it makes you or your computer perform a certain way, right? So when we start to understand that's what's happening in the unconscious mind, and another way to look at the unconscious mind is your nervous system.
Sure.
It's your body mind, the bit of your mind that blinks, you breathes, you affects your lymph system, your heart rate, your adrenal glands. So if all of that software has been installed or been built from every experience you've ever had from the past, right? Then everything around you starts triggering you, right? And that we can get stuck in that box, we can get stuck in that emotion because that mind muscle is pumping, but that mind muscle is from the past, right? So what we have to do is we have to sit down, and teacher obviously separates stuff, but then we have to sit down and truly work out where they're going, what they do, what if infinite possibility with business and life and potential, including sports. What is it you want? Now, I'm not saying you're going to get that, but at least we have that path. And then from there, we can start designing what's on the outside of this box. But more importantly, we start designing who they're going to become. So what beliefs? Because if you look at this is the old version, this is the new version, right? Well, this old version has a certain way of looking at the world, certain
the
beliefs.
old version is in the unconscious mind. Is that what you're talking about?
No, that's a good question, man. The old version meaning the one that's
software.
inside the box, the old version that's been built up from everything that's happened to you in the past, meaning it's not performing, it's outdated.
Right.
You know, so now you're trying to move forwards in your career, or like the athlete going to a different thing. Well, they can't be who they were to do this over here, right? You have certain beliefs about yourself, the world, certain attitude to each task, what you're doing, it's how you value yourself. And if you're not getting results over here, then why would you start connecting all of this wiring to the future? Right? No, we have to become a different version. And so the way I look at this is because people talk about peak states, right? Everyone talks about peak states, peak states. Well, a peak state to me is just that version of you that hangs out and is on point each day, the happy you, right?
Is that like the flow state? Is that what you...
Well, this is, it is. Well, let's go even further, because the other thing about that is that's your peak state. But then I talk about alter egos. What do I mean by that? So you going into that ring, well, that's not the same version of you when you're talking to your mum, or you're going on your date, or you met your wife. No, that version of you is like a bubble. It's a neural net bubble, right? That's a version of you, a cap that you put on, a hat that you put on, that steps into that. Well, it has certain view of the world, certain beliefs, certain heart rate, everything. That's very unique, right? Now, if we create that best badass version of you in business, and then we start aligning with you what you want to achieve, then suddenly these neural nets, the on-point version of you is connected to the future, not the old version, right? So, does that make sense? A little bit,
I'm
no.
struggling.
Okay. So, let me explain it this way.
I know what you're saying about the game face, really. You're different when you're speaking. You're a different person. You have a different attitude
Yeah.
when you're going into the ring, or you're going into a big meeting, or you're going talking to your mother, or, you know.
It's so different versions of you.
Right.
But people try to be the fighter all the time. Well, it's not. No, it's time to be the entrepreneur.
Right.
It's time to be the sales version.
Yeah.
It's time to be the husband or whoever, right? Those are different parts of you. They're all the same you, but it's like putting a different hat on, right? And performing a different role. Well, in that different role or that different hat, we genuinely see the world differently.
Right.
We do. And so if we can understand that, then we can start changing that, right? We can start taking control of our mind.
Yeah.
So we can take control of our emotions, that peak state, and therefore a result. Otherwise, what we do is just on autopilot and we're just spinning around. You
How
know?
many different hats have we got? Is it
How many different things you want to do?
right?
The version of you that you live in each day, that's the peak performance. That's the peak state, right?
Yeah.
So that's the happy, vibrant, confident one who's bouncing around, just open to life, right? Doing this, doing that, just flowing through life. So that flow state, right?
Hopefully, that's what you want to be like, right?
That's what you want
I
to be
can tell
like.
you all like that all the time.
Dude, no.
Well, you seem like, but no, that's the. I mean, that's the goal. That's the hat that you want to get fixed.
yeah.
The everyday hat, right?
Right.
But you need to, before you get all the other ones sorted, you need to get that one number one.
For life. But that's what you were saying about before with business. That becomes the challenge. So that business guy will go into doing business and that muscle or the version of them will become the one he lives in.
Right.
But then he can't step into
No.
being
family
at
time.
home.
Sure.
Or he can't step into being nice or kind or happy or doing
Right.
all this stuff because that business muscle is just big, thick and strong.
Right.
Yeah.
That's great. 'Cause it sounds a bit like me. When I'm with my family, I can't really switch off. I love working. I absolutely love it. I would rather be at work than be on holiday.
Right.
But I struggle with switching off when I'm with my
Yeah.
family. I'm at work. I'm hard not to check my phone. Hard not to be on the emails. How can I get that hat off and put the family hat on?
Yeah, that's a good question, man. And it's so many entrepreneurs. It's the same
Yeah.
thing, you know. Well, first of all, like I said before about interrupting, so you got to catch that pattern, catch that thing. So you can set your. Everyone talks about the morning routine. You're setting your morning up for the day, right? And Ben Greenfield does an awesome one, right?
Yeah.
I've had him on the podcast, and again, he's the same thing. But then there's different parts of the day. So the next one I teach is from work to home, right? That's a hat, different hat. So here's a nice way to do it. If you're driving home, you've got a little drive home, then that's when we start to reset.
Yeah.
So you can go home thinking about work where you're not going to be doing anything for the rest of the night, or you can start to change your focus on going, who have I got to be right now to get the best out of what I'm about to do,
Yeah.
right? So a nice way to do that is, see, this is technical stuff, but the thing that changes these states or these egos is the emotion behind it. So if you're angry emotion, then guess what state you're going to be in? Guess what beliefs you're going to have about yourself
Right.
and the world, right? So if you're in stress mode coming home from work, then guess what your view of the world is, right?
Sure.
So the way I teach it is listen to stand-up comedy, music, something that's fucking fun, man, on the
Right.
way back.
Yeah.
So by the time you come home, you're just relaxed. And then you ask the question again, who have I got to be right now?
Yeah.
Oh, I've got to be dad, got to be husband.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right? So suddenly, things change. And then the other question you can ask if your mind starts going back to work, is there anything else that I can do tonight that's going to exponentially change that business? No. So just be present with your family, right?
Makes sense. Yes.
Because aren't you working your ass off for your family?
Yeah. I love that, and I mean, if I don't get anything else out of this podcast today, I've got that, and that's great. You know, it's funny because I took my family to Big Bear last week for a little trip away, and yeah, we obviously we work our asses off to be able to do this. I can take them away. I switch my phone off, no social media, nothing for 3 days, and mate, fucking by 6 hours, I'm itching. Like, you know what? I'm working my arse off. I'm working so hard for this. Hang on a minute, you know what I mean? But now I got that hat on. But I love what you said about that hat.
See, I just need to simplify things, man. Right? That's
Yeah.
all. That's all I needed to do,
Yeah,
man. I
simplify
can get
things.
so techie,
You
dude.
need to plug little reminders in like whether you're dieting, whether you're training or trying to lose weight. Like,
Yes.
if you lose the focus, if you lose those questions in your head, like why am I doing this and why am I making the decision to lose weight or to
Right.
diet better?
Right.
If you don't continually ask those questions, then you're going to lose focus, and then you're not going to be successful in that. So I think
Absolutely.
it's very much that.
And another way to look at that is, which is really going to help people, is if you're hanging around with douchebags all day, then guess what
Right.
state you're going to be in? Guess what your belief is? Guess
Oh,
what your
yeah.
emotion is, right?
Right.
So when your network and who you're hanging around becomes so crucial. And we talk about mirror neurons, and we can go into epigenetics and loads of other crazy shit. But at the end of the day, who you're hanging around is going to directly start to affect your beliefs, your attitudes, how you value yourself, how you talk to yourself, and really what conversations and opportunities are coming on. So
Yeah.
it's important to be aware of, every second of the day, you know?
I listened to a little bit of the podcast done with Ryan Munsey, and Ryan, very smart guy, he's been on this podcast. He's actually my mentor now for my nutrition. I love the guy.
Oh, awesome.
He said, you're the world's #1 high-pressure performance coach.
Yeah.
What's a high-pressure performance coach?
High pressure performance is, for example, someone who,
And how are you the #1 in the world?
because I work with a lot of people, man.
Yeah.
And that was Ryan. Ryan said that, but it's
Yeah.
like,
I love it. I
but-
love it.
But high pressure meaning if you have to consistently perform at the highest level day after day after day after day, when the pressure's on, that's when my stuff works the best. When you have to perform. So that's high pressure sales. It could be a fighter or an athlete. It could be whatever. But when that intense is pressure and you must perform day after day after day after day after day after day, that's hard.
The
right?
president. It's like the president. Imagine having to deal with that stuff on a daily
How
basis.
fast did Obama go grey?
Yeah.
It's like a week.
It's
Something,
incredible.
right?
It's
He also said you're the master at actionable strategies. What's that? Masterful strategies? What is
Actionable
that?
strategies, meaning we're looking at. Ryan says some good stuff, mate.
Oh,
you
he's
know,
picking you right up.
You like Ryan. Actionable strategies, meaning that, like, I've been a little bit airy-fairy today, but it really was a little bit technical, right? So you have to create it's simple. So actionable strategies, meaning if somebody has to achieve this, then what we do is we look at that goal and we reverse engineer it.
Right.
working backwards. Yeah.
Yeah, so once we know where they're going, we reverse engineer how they're going to get there, and then I start to formulate systems around to make sure they maintain that peak performance all the way
Let's stay the course.
To achieve their goal.
to achieve that goal. Yeah, and
Right.
so the goal could be 5 years out. Well, to me, that's not a goal. That's a vision, right? That could way change.
Right.
12 months. Do you know what you're going to be doing in 12 months? I have an idea.
Yeah.
But not really,
Right.
you know? So we have to break that down. That's a vision. Then we break it down into 3 months. From the 3 months, we break it down into a month to 2 weeks, 2 weeks to a day to a task, you know?
Yeah. I
So
work
then
backwards
it's
from it.
simple, because otherwise people get overwhelmed. People don't stay motivated.
Yeah.
So if we can bring it down to simplicity, which I probably should have done at the start of the fucking podcast, mate. But it's then you stay motivated. You stay driven, because how could something Ryan was talking about is was maybe even you. He was talking about it was like an 8-year
Yeah, he mentioned that.
program.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
you then, man.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
even more awesome. But I was explaining in that podcast, he was like, how did he stay motivated for 8 years? He's on an 8-year
He
program.
said the
Yeah.
average marriage is 8 years as well.
That's interesting. And I was like, well, if the goal was so exciting to him
Yeah.
that he was driven by it. But guess what? Every training session you took as an individual training
Right.
session.
Yeah, but it wasn't like I've got the Olympics in 8 years' time. It was like I'm fighting in a tournament in 2 months' time against this.
There you
So
go.
it was the smaller goals that led to the big goal, right?
And that's what I was talking about before, you know, with the steps.
Yes.
That's the thing.
The
So
little
you
steps.
to get to the Olympics,
Yeah.
well, guess what? You had to go through each training camp. So each training camp had each individual session. Each individual session you had to perform at your best in,
Yeah.
right?
It's like when you're in a tournament like the Olympics, you know that, if I get to the semi-finals, I'm fighting this monster, right? But you've got to
Right.
fight 2 fights to get
Yeah.
there.
Yes.
If you're thinking about fighting that monster,
Sure.
you're going to forget about what's in front of you and stumble up. So you've got to concentrate on the small steps before you get to the
Absolutely.
big steps.
Yeah.
And something you brought up before, which was awesome, was talking about flow.
Yeah.
And let's talk about that for a second, because what people don't understand is that when I'm talking about states, welcome to LA, right? Always planes and helicopters. Talking about states, that version of you, yes, it's thinking, feel, and act in a certain way, but you have to always perform uniquely. So let's talk about flow, because let's talk about baseball. We're in America, right? Baseball player hitting a 100-mile-an-hour ball. Well, guess what? You can't do that consciously.
Yeah.
You can't. It's too fast. So let me explain this. So when you're in that state, or you put the hat on and you're going into to train, right? That has a certain neural net for sure. It has a certain version of you, but you've built that software, so it's automatic. So you don't need to think, I need to put my hip position here, throw a hook like this. You don't need to do that. It's automatic. But when do you get in your own way?
Is that unconscious?
Yes.
Right, yeah.
That's, exactly.
Muscle memory in a sense.
That muscle memory, yeah. So when you're in there, if you start thinking about what you're going to do too much, I've got to hit him there, guess what? You're taken out of that flow.
Yeah.
You start to, and that's where things go wrong.
You also become predictable, I think.
Well, yeah, you start to overthink it. You start to go out off that automatic software that you've been installing, doing reps after rep after rep after rep, right? So what this means, it's like a golf player hitting a hole-in-one. Well, they can't hit a hole-in-one because they can't see the hole. But what they do is they visualize, right, the hole being hit. It's the same with a baseball player. Time perception. They can change it. Same with a fighter. The reason why a fighter in a fight can take so much punishment, because really, you're in trance.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You're in hypnosis. You're in trance. You're in a different unaltered brainwave frequency. And that's flow.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Oh, good.
I love it. I love it. It's kind of like I've been in fights where I've been hit, concussed, brains rattled around my skull. I don't know what the fuck's happening. I don't know but I fight on instinct.
Yes.
And you end up winning the fight, and you can't even remember what happened.
And that's the instinct.
That's the
It's
instinct.
flow state, because you built the mind muscle, the software so deep
Yeah.
that it just plays, right?
Yeah. You don't believe in procrastination.
Nah.
So Munzi says. No, it's not like
It's Munzi again,
yeah,
man.
Munzi again. No, that's what he said now. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I do. I don't believe it. What I believe is misalignment. If yours, it's like, okay, like with you, with going to the Olympics, right? Now, you got there. So were you procrastinating along the way? Well, maybe certain sessions,
Right.
weren't as good as the other, but really, you're in alignment with where you're going. If you're going to, I'm going to use a real UK thing, a chicken factory, right? It's where we grew up, places like that. If you're going to work each day and you're going to somewhere you don't like, then you're not going to be motivated. You don't
Right.
want to go. You're going to procrastinate like hell, right? But if you're into driving towards something, then to me, yes, we have to maintain you on the way. We have to fine-tune you like a race car, but you're just doing it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love that. What sort of stuff do you do now for your own mind, for your training your own mind? I know you've got the mastermind group you're in with Ben Greenfield and Ryan.
Yeah, absolutely. Really, I'm my own student. I really am. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, I'm trying to dial this in and get better. I put myself around the right people. To be around the right people, I just flew to LA, and San Diego, just to be for a week, just to be around the right people, right? Just to get inspired, hey, I didn't even know I was meeting you, mate, so that's even more awesome. But I put myself around the right people. I definitely go into masterminds, but every day I have very, very specific routines. Like for me to step in even into this before, I was prepping my brain. I don't just do this.
Yeah. Right.
I don't just see a client. I don't just do that. I set myself up so I know the outcome. It's visual. I feel good. I'm on point, which means I can come and talk to you. And probably went a bit too fast at the start, right?
No,
but yeah. So every day I'm really working on building this. It's like learning any new skill.
Right.
There's that learning curve, right?
Sure.
It takes time. But Michael Gladwell talks about the 10,000 hours to mastery.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Outliers, right?
yeah, exactly. Well, different studies have shown it actually takes more than 10,000 hours, right? But at the end of the day, that 10,000 hours can take you how long or how short.
Right.
Just depends how many reps you want to do and how fast you want to
What do you mean,
learn.
how long, how short?
Meaning you could do 10,000 hours to get mastery and it could take you 10 years. You could do the same 10,000 hours and you could do it like for 18 hours a day. You're going to get that level of performance, or the muscle's going to get thicker faster.
Yeah.
That's what, to me, that's what we want to do. So it's when we can tune everything, when we can treat like the next goal as like a boot camp towards it, then we're going to get there faster, man.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah.
It's similar. I mean, for us, and we always tell our trainers, like, if you want to be a great trainer, you need to go and do all these things yourself and experience it and understand it from that side of things before you can coach it and coach it well. Because if you don't, then how are you going to ask someone to do a squat if you've never done a squat in your life? Or how are you going to ask someone to lose 10 pounds if you've never had to cut weight in your life?
I couldn't agree more, man. And that's why the personal development industry, I said this on Ryan's podcast, the personal development industry drives me fucking crazy. Didn't know we could swear, but I swore. That's good, mate. So it drives me crazy because it's so cheesy. It's so cheesy. It's outdated the way they communicate and talk about it, and it just annoys me. And people overcharge for their experience, man. I've done this for 15 years all over the world. I've worked with Saudi Arabian royalty. I've worked with people who run $200-300 million businesses. I work with special force commandos, abuse victims, people, everyone else you can possibly imagine. So if someone comes to me, I know what to do, right? That's wisdom. That's why you can charge a certain thing, because you can handle anything that person comes to you, whether it's sales, it's Forex trading, doing an IPO. It's the same stuff to me, man.
Yeah. So I've seen that you do, it's NLP, right? Yeah. NLP in sales.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about that. Is there anything you can give our listeners, a lot of them's in the fitness industry, that they can go out today and use to help their sales let's say if they're selling personal training or whatever?
Totally. Well, that's where I learned NLP, was in Sydney in Australia. And I was very lucky that I got trained by the top guys in the world. So I was very, very lucky. But one of the key things that got shown to me very, very early on, nice, simple, very, very simple. Let's keep it simple today, right? Is there's a couple of default settings in the brain. And the biggest default setting in the brain is to keep you safe.
Right.
That's the amygdala's kicking in. It's the fight or flight response. It's always designed to keep you safe.
Survival of the fittest.
You got it. It is. Yeah, exactly. But there's also a freeze response. That's what people don't talk about. They flight, meaning they're distracting themselves with shiny object syndrome or whatever. And then there's also a freeze response, where there's too much information they can't handle it, and a deer in the headlights, right? So for a start, why? It's because the unconscious mind doesn't know what's on the outside of this box. So it's like, this is my analogy. It's like going back to the caves, depending on what your belief is, but it's like going back to the caves. What's on the outside of this cave? Oh, some awesome stuff. Some amazing stuff. Oof, some scary stuff. I don't know. I don't know how to get there. Let's just be safe and stay where we are, right? So in sales, what happens is they start focusing on the unknown outcome. So what does that kick in? The amygdala, the flight. It kicks in the nervous system to make them fearful, right? But if we can just understand that the unconscious mind only wants to know one thing: what's the outcome?
Yeah.
That's all it cares about, right? So if we can make that image big, bright, close to us, inside of us, and we can tweak all these things, they're called submodalities in NLP, but whatever. But if we can make this image big and bright and we're inside it and we get our nervous system used to feeling this end step, then guess what? You walk into that sale feeling a different way, believing a different way, the attitude, and even the tonality, the pace, the pitch, the timbre of your voice is different. Everything's different. So just why I know this is because when I was going back 15 years ago in Sydney in sales, I was doing okay. Right? I was average. But everyone was like, you've got massive potential to do this. But I was freezing, right? So I went to my manager, can I go on tour, or can I go out with the top performer and see what they're doing? So guess what? I went around and went, I'm better than them. What the hell? What the hell? That's it.
Top performers in what?
It was actually investment real estate.
Right.
Yeah, in Sydney, and back in the day when it was booming, you know, and then that gave me the belief. And then what I did was took that belief and used to go away from everyone in the morning and sit in a room on my own for 10, 15 minutes. And all I used to visualize, honestly, was them signing, them signing, them signing, them signing, them signing, them signing, them signing for like 10, 15 minutes. So by the time I went out, I was just expecting them to sign.
Sure.
So for any salesperson out there, understand that you're going to get scared. That's step one. It's just because of the unknown. Step two is understanding that we need to focus on the outcome. So another way to look at this is like walking down the beach. Right, nice beach behind us, nice beach behind us. So if you're walking down the beach, what are you looking at? Think about it. Where are you looking when you're walking down the beach?
The women.
Come on, Kev.
Family show.
Okay.
Where you're looking is the floor.
Right.
Think about that. You walk, why? Because that's an ancient part of your brain that's making sure there's no snakes and no holes. Right? That's the fear. It's making sure you are safe. But understand that's step one with anything, right? But what you're there for? Well, I'm there to look at the ocean, or the women, but look at the ocean, right? So you got to stop and go, oh, I'm safe. What do we want? And then your brain changes nervous systems. It changes from the sympathetic, the sympathetic to the parasympathetic and calms down. So it's the same with anything. If you can calm yourself down, know where you're going, guess what? You're going to close.
Yeah,
sure.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's kind of like a quote that I love is, what would you do if you weren't
fail.
afraid?
Oh, you weren't afraid,
What would you do if you weren't afraid? Like what you were saying there.
Yeah.
You in that cave when you're like, oh, I don't want to go outside. But if you go outside, it's going to be beautiful, right?
Right.
Same with the seal. I'm afraid to sell. By the way, I'm talking as if I know this. I'm a shit salesman. I couldn't sell anything. But it makes
This is
sense.
part of his sales text. Though.
Yeah.
It's that reverse psychology thing. He does it all the time. I'm terrible at this. I'm terrible, but
it makes sense if you can visualize the end result, which is getting the seal, and you're not afraid of doing it. 'Cause what's the worst that can happen? No, I'm
That's
good.
another way to look at it. That's a good way to look at it. What's the worst that can happen? Okay, it don't get the sale. Okay, next.
Yeah.
That's it, next, right? Another nice analogy, which gets you over that fear, is we put too much importance on that person in front of us, and it might not be the right timing. It just might not be the right person, right?
Sure.
So a nice analogy is like, imagine there's 1,000 cups. They're all upside down. Under one of those cups is $1 million. What are you going to do? You're going to turn over that first cup and go, fuck, there's no one there, man.
Yeah.
No, you're going to go, right? Next.
Yeah.
That's sales. That's all it is. It's just timing and numbers.
sure.
And as long as you're coming from your heart and as long as you're trying to do, like, good stuff and not rip people off.
That reminds us, there was a boxer on the England boxing team. I'm not going to name his name, but he always used to be smashing birds. He always used to get birds, right? But he was horrible. He was a little ugly bastard, and like just bad personality. Yeah, but he always got birds, and the reason why he got birds, because he tried on with every fucking bird around, every single one. Yeah, yeah. It's like, what's the Michael Jordan quote? You're going to miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yes.
But he always had birds.
Numbers game, man. That's a straight numbers game.
That's what that cup analogy reminds us of there.
He was numb to denial. You know, he didn't let that get him down.
Yeah, he
No.
just went for it.
Yeah.
And that's the same, I think, with life, with everything. And same with being an entrepreneur. I don't know, so many businesses, and most of them don't work.
Right.
Right? Or most of them hit a certain point, but they never get to where you want them to. But then you look back on it, and you realize why it didn't.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if you'd have been doing that now, you'd have been sad.
Is there a pattern, do you think, where the businesses are messing up or they're failing? Is there something that you see with?
It's people self-sabotage. For sure, people self-sabotage. So they'll get to a certain point in business, and they're so close. But that old pattern I was talking about, like the old version of them, maybe they've come from families that money's hard and life's tough and there's nothing around them. So that pattern then, when you're about to get money, it's like, well, I don't deserve. Because it's going right back to where it was. And if you imagine that's a muscle or software, then that plays as soon as we're about to detach to money or get some money, or it could be winning the Olympics, or it could be whatever, right?
Is that to do with fear?
Yeah. It's to do with fear, but it's to do with fear from what I just spoke about, that fight or flight response in your brain. So really, stepping into that ring...
So they freeze.
They freeze.
Yeah.
And stepping into that rings, well, guess what? It is a massive unknown. It's scary. And so if you haven't stepped into that peak state, if you haven't trained your brain right, if you're not calm when stepping in there, then all of your training is going to go out the window. You're going to probably adrenaline dump, and it's just you're gonna freak out.
Yeah. So you just got to really keep going. It's like there's a picture of a cartoon picture of a guy digging in a gold mine. Have you seen that?
Yeah. It's a goodie.
And it's like, and he quits, and he's like this far away. He's been doing it for ages, and he quits. Kind of like that, right?
It's exactly like that. It's the same with anything.
Your website, mindsetbydesign.co, not .com, .co.
.co, mate. We've got to be different, right?
Got to be different. Now people remember that. Help sharpen your mind, instantly increase your productivity, and skyrocket your wealth. Big statements.
Massive statements, mate. Do you know why? Because, well, for a start on that, I'm going to give you a whole training you can sign up for that, and it's going to actually show you the science behind what I'm talking about in way more detail. Like an hour and a half, I'm going to show you exactly what I do and going on, right? But it's a big statement because I've worked with a lot of people, and that's what we do, man.
I like the instantly increase your productivity. Is there anything you can give us right now on that?
Yeah, for sure. For sure, well, I'll give you one thing, right? It's the morning and the evening, right? I mean, sorry, it's work to home, changing those hats, right? Well, productivity, here's a nice little thing, because sometimes we forget to change those hats, right?
Yeah.
Plain and simple. Way I teach people instantly, I'll give you a little example of it. Use your Google Calendar, right? Google Calendar is nice and simple. It's free and everyone can use it. But guess what? You schedule what you're doing in your week and your time. So guess what Google does? Pops it up on your phone, pops it up on your computer. It chases you around. You got an appointment now, right? So if you set that, guess what? Well, that teaches you to interrupt the pattern.
Yeah.
So suddenly it's like, oh, I'm going home now. Pop. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's work through this, right?
No, that's really good. We get it all the time. Not just Google Calendar, but social media. I've got all my notifications off, like now on Instagram and Twitter, because that pops up when you're like, ooh.
Constantly. Right. And what do? You go into it, right?
It takes your attention. You know, my phone was dead the other week, and I took the kids out with my wife and we went for a walk, and I've always got my phone on us, and it was dead, and we went and sat in the park and the kids were playing, and at that time it gave me mind a moment to start to be creative and start to really think and think for itself, kind of, rather than I've never really realized until that day. This was like 2 weeks ago, and we've been in business for like years. Like how much energy this thing takes out of you.
Oh man!
Like you're looking all the time. So if I'm looking at someone else's pictures, reading their whatever they're saying about them, that's taken away from our personal creativity.
Absolutely, dude.
Right?
Absolutely.
And it's huge. And I sat in the park, and it was the day when I texted Kev, I'm on the gym, and I was on the computer till like 10 p.m. talking about the systems in place for the desk girls. Right. And it was, it really made us think this piece of shit here, you know.
But it's again.
No, it's the best. I love
use and abuse, right? Use and abuse. But the thing about that, what you just said, is really, really interesting, because you can use that. That's a negative thing, right? It pulls your focus over there.
Yeah.
But you can also use it to a positive thing, like I said with Google Calendar. But understand, even what you're looking at is affecting your brain. I'll talk about mirror neurons. Let's go there, right? And because this will be something you can apply instantly. Mirror neurons are a part of our brain that have been, well, it's an ancient part of it. Have you ever seen that show with Rob Dyrdek, Ridiculous?
Yeah.
Right. Everyone's smashing themselves up, and right. Why are those shows popular? Because everyone watches it and goes, ooh. Right. That's a mirror neuron. So understand, it's part of our brain that's been developed when we were in tribes and before verbal communication. So what would happen is we'd have to look at a hunting skill or how to make fire or whatever it is without being able to communicate. So that part of our brain started to observe and really understand how that person does that.
Right.
So mirror neurons affect us constantly with what is around. So for example, if you hanging around with people who drink, and you've never drank a day in your life, what are you going to start doing? You're going to start drinking, right? You hung around with athletes, you never trained a day in your life. You're going to start training. You hang around with billionaires. You might not become a billionaire, but you're going to be well on your way. But why? This is the thing. Because what are the conversations that are going on when you're talking to someone who's drinking and you're generally like they're moaning about something or about life, right? So what are their beliefs about the world? What's the beliefs about themselves? What's possible, right? They're in this little bubble, and that's their state, and they're just spinning around in that. And what happens if we start to mirror, or mind starts to mirror who we're around? So if we're hanging around with athletes, well, guess what? What are generally athletes talking about?
Yeah.
Abs and things like that.
High performance. I love that.
I know, right? So that's what I'm saying. So you hang around with who you want to aspire to be like.
Yeah. It's just finding them people.
Well, it is, mate.
Yeah,
It
I
is, mate.
can't find a really good-looking multi-millionaire with a massive sausage. That's what I'm trying to find.
Mate, you're in Santa Monica, man. There's loads of them.
There's one sitting right here. Look, Kev. No, but I had Dan Pena. Are you familiar with Dan Pena?
Yeah.
I had him on the podcast, and he was a huge believer in the average of the five you hang around with the most.
Oh, yeah. Your network is your net worth. That's what it is, yeah.
And it's kind of like, well, how do you find these people? He said, well, the first thing, I think he said this, start eliminating the people who were bringing you down, who were sitting drinking in the pub all the time.
Here's a good way. It's true, man. But here's a good way to look at it. It's called the law of 33%, right? So imagine you got three categories. You got this category, middle category, upper category. So you should be spending your time breaking this up into 33% of these different. Now, I know it quite doesn't match up to 100%, but 33% of people below you. And I don't mean you're better than them. I just mean the below you on their journey.
Right.
Then you've got 33% of the people who are on the same level as you. And then you've got 33% of people who are 10 to 15 years ahead of you in the game, right? If you only have so much time, effort, and energy, think about that. You can never get a second back. Then who do you want to be hanging around with, right? That's the thing. So should you be hanging around with the low 33% all the time? Well, no.
Yeah.
But you know what? You can help them get up to the middle bit. But if you hanged around with billionaires all day, you'd probably be damn insecure, right?
Right, sure, yeah.
So there's this.
Oh, right, yeah.
Right? So you've got to hang around with the people you aspire to be like, but also understand that there's these three levels. And you can spend your currency, which is your time, effort, and energy, on whatever section you want.
Yeah, you got to spend some time with the bottom as well, because you got to remember where you came from, so it gives you that perspective, I think.
Yeah,
Sure.
definitely. Yeah.
Exactly.
So let's talk a little bit about more mindset. We've been talking about fighters, about Conor McGregor's mindset.
Yeah,
Conor McGregor's
sure.
mindset. I mean, he's done so well over the last 4 or 5 years. He's obviously from a rough neighbourhood in Ireland, and now he's got this massive, biggest fight in combat history coming up, and he's earning an absolute fortune, and he 100% deserves every penny of that.
I agree.
Right?
Totally
So his
agree.
mindset is kind of, and his personality's got him where he is. Obviously, his fighting skills now, he's a world-class fighter. He's fucking great at what he does.
For sure.
So I think you can get fighters who's great fighters, who's got a okay personality, but no. So if you're a great fighter, you've got to have a great mindset, right?
That's how you become a great
Yeah,
fighter.
yeah. It's the personality that he's got,
Yes.
Right.
Right. And that's the entertainment factor.
and that's what you
Right.
can't really train, right?
You could go to classes, but if you're boring and you're not good at talking, you can get better at it. But at the end of the day, that's him.
Yeah,
That's why he's unique. That's why he's him. You know? So can you recreate him? Well, everyone seems to be trying hard,
Yeah,
man, but you
not
can't. You
Yeah.
can't. That's why in 4 years he's going to earn 134 million and be in the biggest combat fight ever.
right.
It all starts from here. I actually did a podcast about this. I've done a couple of podcasts on Conor. So, but it's the latest one. I just broke down. He talks about the law of attraction. He's real simple the way he thinks, right? Really simple the way he thinks. But I think that's also powerful.
Yeah,
Because
sure.
he doesn't get all the noise in
Yeah.
the way, right? He just knows it, what he's after, and he keeps that motivation. To me, I don't think Conor's the best fighter in the world. I don't think he's the best martial artist.
You think
in
he's
the world.
the best fighter at his weight category in the UFC?
I think he's the best fighter on that moment, on that day, under that amount of pressure.
Yeah.
That's what he outperforms
Which
people
matters.
on. Which is everything, right?
That's all that matters, really, right? Yeah.
So to me, it's that's what Conor's the best at.
Yeah.
It's being able to perform under high pressure.
Yeah.
Right? Millions of people saying all this shit. And it's like, you backing that up?
Yeah.
Damn.
He puts pressure on himself like no other fighter really does. Well, Prince Naseem Muhammad used to do that stuff as well.
Remember Naseem, yeah.
What do you mean?
yeah.
What do you mean by puts pressure on himself? He because he talks so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think that he sees that as pressure on himself though, or he sees it as this is just a part of it? But I'm not. He doesn't feel pressured because of, he thinks he has to back it up. That's
that's
a good question.
Yeah, I don't think he puts pressure on himself because he's the type of person that strives under what we would call pressure.
yeah.
Like for me, if I told someone I'm definitely going to knock him out in before 4 rounds, now I've put so much pressure on myself.
Mhm.
But his mindset
Yeah.
is obviously better than mine.
Yeah, but also I don't think. I mean, does he? I'm sure he wants to knock him out within 4 rounds, but does he really think that's going to happen? I don't know. I mean,
I personally believe 100% categorically he believes it.
yeah,
Really?
100%. That's not an act. He, talk about state, he's developed that peak state, that alter ego so much that muscle, that's the only thing he can see. It's
Yeah.
the only thing there's no
Sure.
other thing in his head. Now, I think there's a difference between stress and pressure,
right.
right? He's not stressed. He's putting that pressure on because he knows if he puts that much pressure on, no one can handle that amount of pressure but him in the past.
Right.
So that's one of his tactics. Have you seen the way he gets to the weigh-ins and stuff and he goes eye to eye?
Yeah.
Again,
Yeah.
it's his tactics. What he's doing with that, I don't know if he's using voodoo or something, man, but it's
Yeah.
again, it's the same thing.
But with him compared to other fighters, like, when I used to do head-to-heads, I would try and act, and I work with a sports psychologist that used to see you walk around with your head up high and show them that you're not bothered and all that.
Right.
But with him, I feel like it's more than an act.
Yeah.
Like, it's legit.
Yes.
It's like everything, like this, I'm going to fucking it's like, it's real, if that makes sense. It's
real.
not just doing it just to scare them. He's doing it because
It's
it's
authentic.
real.
He really believes it. Like what
He
you're
really,
saying.
he really believes it. And he gets the results from the intimidating thing as well.
I couldn't agree more. Like the old saying, fake it till you make it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I'm not into that saying
right.
because you shouldn't. You think Conor's faking it till he makes it? No, he's knowing. He's not faking it. He is.
Yeah.
He
It's
knew from day one he had the potential to be where he is now.
Right.
He visualized it.
Day one.
He moved towards that visualization with intention.
And I think, it's exactly. And I think the difference is, it's people doubt themselves.
Yeah,
So we all get this, like, this is what's happening. We're men. But then something goes wrong or whatever, and we doubt ourselves.
Mhm.
yeah,
He doesn't doubt himself.
yeah. You know what the mystery is? That we'll never ever know if he ever did doubt himself. If he ever, because he's never
It's true.
going to tell it. But
It's true.
that would be an amazing thing to really know for a mindset guy
I don't
like
think he'd
yourself.
ever admit it, but everyone doubts themselves at some point.
Everybody.
Yeah. He would never admit
Everybody.
that because that's part of his persona and that's part of
Right.
the mind he's playing. His
But
game he's playing.
but the thing is, with him, it's kind of like half believable that he doesn't doubt himself because
Right.
his success and the money he's earned, So if he said like I've never ever, it's kind of like you would think he would have, but maybe. Just maybe he hasn't.
I'm
Maybe
sure
he's
he has
fucking
those
crazy.
stressful. Maybe do.
Yeah.
But I'm sure he has those stressful nights, and the training sessions don't go quite the same way. But this is the difference between being world class. He probably does get stressed. He probably does get anxious. He probably does get overwhelmed, right? But now what?
Right.
Now what? Okay, how long are you going to sit in that emotion for? How long are you going to keep building that mind muscle? How long are you going to keep doing that pattern?
Yeah.
Right? Now what? So something Tony Robbins talks about is a 90-second rule. He says no good thing comes from being in a negative state. Right?
Yeah.
No creative idea comes from sitting in a negative state. No, it's like, okay, this new idea pops in and you're in a positive state. So he has a 90-second rule.
Yeah.
Him and his wife. It's like you can
I love
scream, you can shout, you can do whatever the fuck you want for 90 seconds. It's done.
Yeah.
Now we perform.
I love that, and it makes sense. But when you're in them negative states, I'm sure you have been, I'm sure you have been, Kevin, or I have, where you're just feeling just shit like shit.
Yeah.
And then someone says, it's all right, man, you're good. Snap out of it. It's like, it's way easier said than...
Way easier said than done. But that's the same with business. It's the same with fighting. Everyone can hit a pad. Everyone can get in the ring, but to do a ring and perform at it, it's the highest thing. So, yeah, when you're in the moment is the hardest bit. But that's where I develop systems and, like, we interrupt and all these things, is so you start becoming consciously aware of what those patterns are.
Right.
So you start to get used to, oh, that's me doing that again. And if you're around the right people, they help you. If you've got these routines in place, it resets you.
Yeah. When Ryan Munsey was on this show, I asked him, because he's all about biohacking the body, giving you different things for sleep and nutrition and all that. I said, well, is there a biohack? Because he said there's a biohack for everything, a biohack for feeling down and feeling depressed. How do you get out of that biohack? And he said, well, it's not so much a biohack, or maybe it is. He said, if you go and get a cold shower right then and there, that's going to help you feel good. And I was like, well, how the hell is a cold shower going to help you feel good? He says, getting a cold shower is not easy. Or a cold bath. He says, you've got to challenge yourself. Now, if you go and do it, you challenge yourself, you've completed that challenge, you're going to come out of there mentally thinking you've just completed a challenge. Smally, so a little bit of you're going to be like, whoa, you're making them feel a little bit better.
You've completed that challenge, but you've also totally taken, because when you do something like that just shocks you, you've totally taken your mind off of what is actually bringing you down. So you've removed those emotions and those thoughts. And
you've taken control of the situation by getting
And it resets the nervous system. It literally resets the nervous system. The other thing is a cool book. If everyone's going through a lot of shit right now, there's a cool book out there. It's 100 years old. It's by Dale Carnegie, and it's called How to Stop Worrying. The stories that this guy tells about, like 100-year-old entrepreneurs who like losing their arms and legs, and they're going through depression, and it's like everything around them, and they're working in a coal mine, and then suddenly, the thing is, we take action, we take a step, that takes a step, and we move in a different direction. So what the book talks about is all of these entrepreneurs, instead of being overwhelmed, they actually just take a step. They actually do an actionable thing and just go deep into moving forwards.
Right.
And suddenly, that fear or whatever the situation was is gone, and they're just OCD and hard on moving forwards. And that's how all these people just went from nothing to suddenly amazing.
What other actionable things can you do, like taking cold showers? One, is there anything else that you can do to instantly feel a bit better, do you see?
Well, for starters, you've got to check your nutrition. You've got to also check everything. Remember, depression is about, I just about 4 weeks ago did the actual whole thing on depression, because I had a nervous breakdown at 27, 28 years old, dude, in New Zealand. Because my business partner stole money off me, sent me into bankruptcy, all the rest of it. So the thing with that is your brain chemistry gets messed up. And there's a chemical, obviously most people know, serotonin. Serotonin is the happy chemical, right? So something that I've used over years is, and for years, like 12 years, is a product called 5-HTP. Okay? It's a natural product. It's a precursor, and it helps you produce your own serotonin, okay, in your body, which makes you feel happy. Now, if you're on any pharmaceuticals or anything like that, don't be taking it. Go and check all the rest of it. But 5-HTP for me, I know if I don't take it, I feel like I'm in a cloud.
Right.
If I do take it, I am happy.
What is it, a tablet?
You take it. It's on its new mood. That's what they're.
That's the same
All
thing,
mood
man.
books,
Yeah, there you go. It's serotonin. It helps you produce your own serotonin. So naturally, you're going to start to feel happier.
You take that every morning or evening?
I take it twice a day. I take it in the morning and night.
Well, is it natural if you're taking a tablet?
Well, it depends what's in the tablet. Right? Depends what's in the tablet. But yeah, it's
and then do you not become reliant on that?
I think it's not reliant. It's like I use it levels go up and down with it depending on how I'm feeling. So I use it to maintain. Now, does that mean that if I'm taking these tablets and everything the rest of my life is shit, that I'm going to be happy? No, it doesn't mean that, man. It doesn't mean that. It means that it allows you to just feel that little bit brighter.
Yeah, and there's go for a run, go work out, or just like people say, if you're in a bad mood, you're sad. If you just make yourself smile, then your body, I think, naturally is going to release that serotonin, and that, I think, and that's a hard thing to do, though. If you're sad, you can't just start laughing. But like, they say it works, and I would imagine.
No, I remember you
they
said
say-
that you exercise, Kev, takes your mind off things. It's kind of like your kind of form of meditation.
Yeah,
Get out
it
there
is.
doing a run.
Running, especially particularly at night, because it's dark and there's my peripherals. I can't see all the distractions. I can only think and see
Right.
what's in front of me, and that for me is when I think the clearest and think not the slowest in a bad way, but I interpret things and I visualize things the most
Perspective,
clear.
man.
Yeah.
Life's about perspective, and also meditation is a hack.
Right.
For sure, meditation
Do you
is a hack.
meditate?
Every day.
Right.
Yeah.
How long for?
It depends. I literally at least 10 minutes. But
Right.
before I see a client or a meeting or even this, I'll literally sit for 5 or so minutes. I put binaural beats in my ears. Do you know about that stuff?
No.
I got to tell you about that in a second. Binaural beats in my ears, and I literally will start visualizing and just instead of coming out of here going, brrrr, you come back into your body, and it's like, okay, that's calm now,
Right.
and then I can go and speak and do whatever.
Yeah.
But
You seem like you've got a lot of energy.
I just think I'm excited, mate, because it's I've been through a lot of shit,
Yeah.
you know.
You're loving life. It seems since I met you in the gym just a couple hours ago to like now, you've not stopped and you've got energy and you seem like a good person to be around.
I think I'm grateful, man. I
Yeah.
really do, because I go back to visit. I don't know about you when you go back to the UK and stuff, but I go and visit family and friends, and they're still doing the same stuff.
Yeah.
And hey, go and do what you want, right? But I'm sitting here with you guys, and in Santa Monica, I feel grateful, man. And I've been through a lot of roller coasters and shit, but who hasn't?
Sure.
Yeah.
Who hasn't?
So this stuff you put in your ears, is that the red light stuff that Ben Crinfield talks about?
Oh, see, Ben's got. I love Ben, man. I love Ben. Actually, what it is brainwave frequencies.
Right.
So when we start to understand that all day long we're walking around in something called beta, right? That's high frequency. We're active. We're running around, and then what happens is to get into this access to this software in our head that I keep talking about, these mind muscles, then we need to drop the brainwave frequency. And that's something called alpha, and we can go lower and lower and lower. But what the hell does that mean, right? It means that we're calm, but for example, I use binaural beats, they're called, okay? You can, free apps all over the place. Just go and play with them. It creates two little brainwave frequencies, and they create a little spike in your brain. But for example, what happens is I use it all day when I'm working. So I'll have alpha waves playing in my ears, which will hold my focus. So
Wow.
it's amazing.
You have to send me that app.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I'll say absolutely. So I use it for being creative. I've got creative setting. Bink. Focused. Bink. Calm down. Bink. De-stress. Bink. Meditate. Bink. It's bink. I don't know where the bink come from. but I put those in my ears, and if I'm stressed, within 5 minutes, it just changes that brainwave, and you calm down. It's amazing stuff. I've taken clients from who had like a 20-minute focus. That's all they could do, and they're ADD out. And they've been able to use the binaural beats and sit there for 2 hours.
Wow. Yeah, so now we're going to have show notes for this website. So if you go to Boxing Life podcast, and we'll put this link in the show notes to this, that would be great. Andy, thank you so much for coming on this show. If people want to find you and find out more, then go to Mindset
By Design.
Bydesign.co.
But
Mindsetbydesign.co.
you could literally just Google Mindset by Design. I'll pop up on podcast, the website, all the rest.
Yeah, go on there.
Easy.
And your Instagram,
It's
or
all
Twitter,
yeah.
it's all the same.
Just
all linked.
Andy Murphy, NLP, Andy Murphy Mindset. Just Andy Murphy. I'll pop
We'll
up
find
somewhere.
you out. Yeah, thank you for listening, guys. Good old Kev.
Yeah, thanks very much, Andy. That was great. I really learned a lot, and
Yeah,
had a
and
great
we'll get you on
conversation.
again
I
sometime.
think listeners are going to love this.
Yeah, thank you for listening. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this podcast on iTunes and leave us a review. Until next time, we'll see you later.